Welcome back to another episode here on the Eternal Sith Network, where you get all your Star Wars news. Today we're going to be getting into episode 6 of The Bad Batch, and it did not disappoint. But before we do start, remember, hit the subscribe, like, and notification bell so you're always in the know on everything Star Wars here on the Eternal Sith Network, where you get all your Star Wars news. Once you're done watching this video, go check out my last one. Give that one a thumbs up as you watch. Let's start the show. So right off the rip, it looks like they land on this planet called Vanguard Axis, and from there they're selling these forgeries as they're also trying to gain credits, right, as they're making their way around the galaxy. And they're making the transfer with these droids, and we hear Tech say that he created these chain codes himself, which means they, will disrupt and won't be a problem, so they can keep going about their merry way without the Empire interfering or bothering them as they're making their way through the galaxy. Then we get to see Omega, and she says she doesn't really like this place, and then ends up snooping around and finds a Wookiee in captivity who ends up being, which we'll get to in just a few. But then we see Omega and the Wookiee running, and the Wookiee's looking for something, but then something breaks out with this crossfire. We then see the droids get informed about the situation. Hunter gets the call as well from Echo, and then you hear the droids say the Wookiees were a great deal to their buyer, as we then see them all together, and you wonder who this buyer was. And I have a theory on that at the very end of the video, so stay tuned for that one. We then see Omega looking at Gungi as he sees his lightsaber on the holster of the droid, and you could see it. You could tell Omega's kind of like, oh snap, he got it like that. She like backed off a little bit. He then takes his lightsaber and then fights and breaks loose, and then we see the crossfire happen between everybody. But then again, we see that Omega notices in their ship as they do break away that Gungi's a little distant, and Tech then mentions how he's definitely and most probably scared of them after Order 66, as they are clones, and he probably can tell that. But then Hunter figures him out as he then is speaking, and we end up finding out his name is Gungi. We know Gungi, he's from the Clone Wars. So, and this was one that was a long time coming, as we saw it in the trailer. So it was finally nice to get this and land it for once. Tech then says that he has been on the run and has trying to get back to Kashyyyk. So now you know exactly where we're going in this episode, which I thought was really cool because it's been a while since we've been to Kashyyyk. So I was happy with this. So then we then see that they are going to be landing on Kashyyyk, as they know some people there, as we know that they have major ties to that with knowing before the Empire came along. Now, Gungi doesn't really remember much of the planet, but just in dreams, as you hear Hunter describe it. Now, Gungi drops as he sees this village destroyed by the Empire, and even Omega consoles him by saying that their home world of Kamino was destroyed as well, as they have that similarity together. Then as they're looking into the far to see if there's anything on the planet, they do notice that there's some Trandoshans there on the planet, and it seems that they have a Wookiee in hostage, which is interesting, as it makes Gungi feel a little bit better, I'm sure, as now he knows that his people are still alive. But then Gungi makes a run for it to save this Wookiee, and in the very next scene we see the Wookiee still lives. So we see a tribe of them, and their leader of the pact is called Yana, and Hunter's talking to Yana and then is telling her that they don't see eye to eye with the Empire, so they have nothing to worry about, and how Gungi does need his people, and that was their goal, was to get him back so that way he can be safe and amongst his people. We then see more Trandoshans and clone troopers, as the Empire has still ties there and hasn't left the planet, as now they notice that there is a Jedi on that planet, and the Trandoshan basically says whoever gets this Jedi will get 100 pelts. So again, we know that this is the beginning of the Empire. Everything is still there, as the Empire is using these Trandoshans to wipe out the planet clean and, annihilate anybody and anything who is there. But of course we know that Jedi, or when it comes to Jedi, the stakes are very much higher. Then Gungi, we see right after, uses the spider creatures that we saw in the very beginning to kill the Trandoshan. And then later on, we see at the very end, as we're coming to full circle, we see Gungi showing Omega listening to the trees as they celebrate another victory and their people are okay. And Hunter then says, as they're all talking with Yana and Tech, that hopefully a new path will be found for them, one far, far away from war. I thought this was a great episode, guys. I was so happy to finally get Gungi, as this was one of my things that I've been putting polls about. I was so excited to see it. I thought that this episode, going back to Kashyyyk, was so dope. It was nice to see that they're still alive, that they haven't gotten taken out. Again, the last time, or one of the last times that we saw Kashyyyk was from Revenge of the Sith as well, from in live action. But this was super awesome. Again, I'm so happy that they brought this episode out, and I wonder what ends up happening to Gungi. But I have theories on that I will do a video on later on in the following weeks to come, if we don't get any more Gungi following the upcoming episodes for this season. But also too, there's a mystery on who this buyer was for the Wookiee that they obviously knew was a Jedi. And I have a theory on that I will talk about in a later video as well, that I have some ideas and some theories on that as to why they would be selling this, $1 million Jedi, as we know that was this is the purge. This is the time that Jedi are dying off. So again, we'll talk about that in a later video. But guys, comment down below, what did you think about the episode and how much did you enjoy seeing Gungi come back, as this was super dope to see, and I'm excited again. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Remember, for more Star Wars content, hit the subscribe, like, and notification bell so you're always in the know on everything Star Wars. And remember, the Eternal Sith, then, now, forever. Later, guys.